Running a company is no easy feat. It is essential for business leaders to implement a plan of action to accomplish company goals. Welcome to the Forge Ahead podcast, where we will be discussing how business leaders effectively strategize for success. All right, let's talk business.
Hello, and welcome to the Forge Ahead podcast, where we will be discussing how leaders effectively strategize for success. I'm your host, Frank Vitale, President and CEO of Forge. Forge is a certified veteran business enterprise headquartered in Morgantown, West Virginia. We focus on strategic planning and execution designed to help organizations and businesses find success, growth, and partnership. With particular expertise in small business and government services, Forge uses its knowledge and experience to improve enterprises of all sizes and sectors. On this episode of the podcast, I am pleased to introduce our guests, Kris and Carrie Lilly, owners of Preferred Surfaces. Well, Kris and Carrie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us, Frank.
I'm so glad you could join us. First of all, I'd like to hear a little bit about you. So, Carrie, let's go.
Okay, Frank. Well, my name is Carrie Lilly, and as you mentioned, I'm one of the owners of Preferred Surfaces along with my husband, Kris. We took over ownership of the company at the beginning of 2022, and we're really excited about the opportunities that exist in the Morgantown area and the surrounding area. It's a custom countertop business, and we also do other surfaces such as backsplashes and fireplace surrounds, lots of different options with lots of different stone materials.
Great. Well, how about a little bit about your background? I mean, tell us about you personally.
Well, I grew up in Beckley and graduated from high school there and then moved up to Morgantown in 1999. So let's see, 23 years ago or so now. And live here now with my husband, Kris, and we have one little boy, KJ, who's 2.5, and another little boy who will be with us in about 4 weeks on the way. So Morgantown has pulled my whole family here. My sister has since moved here and my parents. And I graduated from mining engineering school at WVU, which is where I met Kris. We both majored in mining engineering, and I went to school and then got our MBAs together, and I have a history of a legal career with Bowles Rice Law Firm, as well as having been the general counsel for MEPCO, which was a coal-producing entity in the Morgantown area that supplied coal to the Longview Power Plant. And having been in the energy industry for quite some time, Kris and I were looking for some other opportunities and came across Preferred Surfaces. And so that's a little bit about me, energy past, but countertop future, I suppose.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. So you have a great history, great background for business. We're going to dig a little more into that as we get into the podcast. But based on a very important announcement you made there, we probably better move this episode along quickly because in 4 weeks, things are about to change. So pretty exciting.
Get a little more crazy, but that's okay. I like to be busy.
Well, that's good. And Kris, you're going to have a chance to be busy as well, no doubt. So, Kris, I know that you're born and raised right in the Morgantown, West Virginia area. And so welcome to the podcast, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
That's right, Frank. Born and raised here and educated at WVU as well, and have always enjoyed the area and wanted to stick around in the area. And that's one thing that was important to Carrie and I while we looked for Preferred Surfaces was the ability to make our living here and have a company that we could call our own. My background is energy as well. I started going to the different mines that my dad operated when I was 5 years old. And as I got bigger, so did all of my responsibilities. Eventually took that company over, successfully ran it for about 8 or 10 years, transitioned from thermal coal to metallurgical coal and had to move away from home and had an opportunity to sell the assets out on that business. And Carrie and I started looking for something else to transition into. Energy has been a difficult place to be for the past decade and a half. So we certainly look forward to our future here. Well, electrons weren't going anywhere, homes aren't either. So we're happy to be in a space that everyone uses and it's appreciated.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there's no question that your background, both of you, really lends itself to being continuous entrepreneurs, and this will be another opportunity for you to really grow a business. And I know that you're passionate about it, and so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So, Preferred Surfaces, right? That's the name of your company, and so how did the two of you get to where you are to become owners of Preferred Surfaces? I mean, how did that journey get started? So I'll turn it over to you, whoever wants to first address that.
I'd say we were responsibility with what success we've had, and we put ourselves in a position where not only physically and mentally we could handle something like this, but financially we could take something on. And we've always been savers, and that allowed us to have the wherewithal to make a move on something. And with the company, it was something that we both found interesting. And the easiest answer to that is we spent many months looking around, and we spent several days in the car driving around what we considered the footprint of the area, looking for stuff that we could both either agree on or agree to disagree on. And this was one that piqued both of our interests.
Yeah. No, that's, so often that's sort of how things work, right? They just sort of evolve. And when you're looking for an opportunity, something presents itself, and sounds like that's the case here. Carrie, any follow up on that? I mean, any more like particulars, like, you were asking around maybe for a business. Did you have a network at work for you? How did you learn about the opportunity at Preferred Surfaces?
Well, we knew the prior owners of Preferred Surfaces, because they had installed the countertops in our current home when we did a remodel back in 2015, 2016. And so
you were a customer, right?
Yeah, we had been a customer. We had had a great experience. And I just have a lot of personal interest in kind of the creative aspects of the business. I have a real estate broker's license as well, and have a lot of appreciation for the real estate market in our area. And Kris and I were also looking for something that I would say for him offered a hands-on component. And there's a lot of machinery that's involved with the fabrication of the countertops. And then there's also a nice part of the business that overlays with my background in professional services as well as real estate. And having known the prior owners, we actually just Kris called one of the prior owners one day and said, "Hey, we were driving around in the car with a legal pad, and we both kind of thought that your business might be one that we could be interested in. Would you be interested in selling?" And I think that's kind of how it went. I mean, the process was in the works for a long time in terms of just general discussions, but it just became a nice fit when we saw the roles that the prior owners were playing in the business, and we saw how we might be able to integrate ourselves, and also had a lot of respect for the success that they'd had in the past, but appreciation for the potential that exists, which we really wanted a business that we knew we could have here in Morgantown that had potential for growth on top of a strong foundation.
Great. Well,
I can add something important real quick, Frank. One thing, we certainly worked our personal network as well as business brokers and everything like that. And at the end of the day, it really took her and I taking the activity of looking and reaching out to push anything over the edge. That's the biggest piece of advice that I could give, is that on the sourcing of this, it was us looking around and calling up people and trying to put a deal together. Really, none of that fell in our lap. And that was probably the most eye-opening part of the experience for me, was there wasn't a lot of buy-side help in the marketplace that fit our purchasing ability or in the small to middle-sized market in our area.
In this region.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, right? It's my experience that a lot of entrepreneurs or folks that are entrepreneurial and want to own a business are waiting for this like magic thing to happen where, you know, they go to a catalog or a website and they just pick the business they want and they buy it, right? But it's not like that often. It's doing the things that you all have done. It's getting the legal pad, driving around, thinking about relationships that you already have. And it sounds to me like making a phone call and you know, introducing the idea or discussing the idea with a potential seller.
And a lot of the stuff that we found that was easy to find for sale was distressed. So we did not want to buy something that was distressed. We wanted to buy something on a good solid footing with a good reputation and poised for growth into the future. A lot of opportunities quickly self-selected out.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was looking at something the other day, and in fact, I've got a quote here. The overall number of mergers and acquisition deals in the past 12 months, ending 30 June 2021, amounted to 16,672, which is almost 24% increase compared to the previous year. So, you know, I think a lot of folks started looking at selling as well as acquiring businesses, particularly out of that first year of the pandemic.
Yeah, I don't have any statistics to support this, but as the boomers retire, there are a lot more businesses for sale than there are people to acquire.
Yes. Well, and I think facing any hardship, but particularly economic hardship, can force someone to really start to think about their position. You know, maybe it's time to sell. Maybe it's time to retire. Maybe it's time to move on. And so this, you know, and quite frankly, in a market that doesn't see that many mergers and acquisitions, it is refreshing to me to see a couple like yourselves be able to put something together like this. So, you know, you're not a startup, right? You've acquired an existing well-oiled machine, a great company that's been around for a couple of decades. And so that's exciting on a variety of fronts. Tell us a little bit more about the actual products that Preferred Services offers.
Sure. Carrie, you alluded to that a second ago.
Sure. Well, the majority of the work that we do is countertops and other surfaces, but we focus a lot on, we have natural stone, which would be granite, quartzite, marble. We also have quartz, which is a product that's made predominantly of a natural product and has a binder in it. And we have full slabs. We have a huge selection of these materials on our site, as well as relationships with a variety of vendors in the region where we can source very unique products, even if we don't have them on our site. And we do the fabrication, which is the cutting and the installation of the product all ourselves. So if somebody is building a new home and they need new countertops, maybe they're remodeling and they are replacing existing countertops, or maybe doing a complete remodel where they're getting all new cabinetry in the kitchen, the bathroom, the laundry room. There's been a lot of popularity lately for things like man caves and outdoor grills. And we have some special techniques in our fabrication facility that differentiate us from a lot of other fabricators that are in the region, in that we can, for example, leather a slab and give it a different type of a finish so that it's not a high gloss sheen. And we can really, and we can also, with natural stone, there's natural veining. In granite, for example, every slab is different. And if you were installing a kitchen island, and let's say there was a particular feature of the natural stone that you wanted to show up as a centerpiece on your island, we have the ability with the technology that's in our shop to cut the slab of stone to position it so that a particular veining feature or geologic feature that someone might want to have in a certain location can be placed in the way that they would like for it to be. So what else would you say about our products, Kris? We offer some ancillary related things such as sinks, stainless steel, quartz. I saw a black stainless steel sink today, which was a really unique thing. So if customers are, looking to whether they're upgrading their countertops only or they're working on a completely new space, there's a lot we can do for the countertops and the backsplashes. We do some work with shower surrounds. And what else would you say, Kris?
It's important to mention that every product that goes out that door is a one-off custom piece that's both designed with our team of salespeople and the customer in mind. I mean, no two projects are alike. Even if it's very, very similar footprint homes, they're still completely different and separate. You can change your offsets, you can change your angles, you can lay it out differently, like Carrie said. Material selection, there's a smorgasbord of options that someone can take to really make it their own. And it works well in new as well as retrofit, inside, outside, upstairs, downstairs, everywhere. There's a product price point and a product for everybody in all reality.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think there's probably a misconception out there that these things are to get anything customized is so expensive. It's only for folks, that have a high budget, and I think there's a little bit of a thought out there that customized granite or other material countertops is maybe not something that a family with a budget can afford. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure, that's not necessarily the case. There are different stones at different price points, of course, and I mean, this goes from mild to wild within it. It is a size of job game. It's on a square footage basis or a linear footage basis. So the larger the kitchen or area, there is a price change there. However, it's a very, very durable product. It will not wear through like some of the veneered products will, where your color changes through time. It's robust, it's durable, it's been on the earth for a long, long time, longer than mankind, and it lasts for, as you will most likely dislike the look of it, or it will age and become out of style before the product will fail.
Before it wears out, right?
Yeah,
right. But this is something that a family, could put together. Maybe they select a material that's a little more within their budget, but they could have something customized. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, no matter what price point the material is, the services Carrie described with the hand or with the fabrication and the customization, as well as the layout, we handle that the same from top to bottom on the price point.
That's great.
So there is something for everybody there, Frank. And there's some partnerships available for financing opportunities as well to spread it out a little bit.
Okay. And just to be clear, you're right now, at least, your geographic region is what?
Within 2.5 or 3 hours of Morgantown in a bunch of directions.
Okay.
As you get to the outskirts of that, we would like to stack some jobs on top of each other to control the costs as a partnership with the customer.
Sure.
We do a lot of work inside of Maryland, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania, and some in the northeastern Ohio region.
Okay. Yeah. So regionally, about 2.5, 3 hours outside of the Morgantown, West Virginia, which is, for our listening audience, is about an hour and 20 minutes south of Pittsburgh. So clearly you could go up into the Pittsburgh market if you had a customer or client that needed to. Let's take a little bit of a shift and talk for our listening audience. We have all kind of folks out there listening and entrepreneurs. We get a lot of folks that are entrepreneurial in nature. And so if you could talk us through, either one of you, about the process of acquisition. So we talked about how you became aware of preferred surfaces. Now, transactionally, let's focus on the transaction of sort of high level steps that where you began and sort of when you got to the point of getting the keys.
Well, that was an interesting process, I think, to say the least. And given my background, having practiced law and been involved in some variety of business transactions, I'd seen some similar things in the past of similar size. And so I had some something to look back on to help, I think, us from a transactional perspective, and also relied on some colleagues in the area to help us as well. But we started out really with some general discussions and turned those into a term sheet and kind of took it from there, explored some financing options. And it took a little bit to figure out what we felt was the best fit for us. And we, in the meantime, were getting the assets appraised to try to make sure that we had everything in line to move forward with the financing as needed. In this situation, it was somewhat unique too, because one of the prior owners actually passed away during the time that we were trying to get everything finalized. But we were far enough along in the discussions and had enough of an agreement with both of the prior owners, they were husband and wife, that we were still able to continue on very diligently with everything under the same general understanding. And so really, it took reliance upon a team of who were really trusted advisors in terms of the lenders, the attorneys, the appraisers got involved, and it took a lot of patience, I think I would say too, just because all of these things take a lot more time than you think they will. We had a lot going on our side, trying to wrap up a prior mining business. And then, of course, the owners who we were negotiating with were trying to run their business in the meantime. So they were very busy. And I think what we found is that it was in some ways hard to find time for all of us to sit down together to talk through everything that was necessary to get the deal to actually go through. It wasn't that we didn't agree. It was getting it all on paper and getting everybody together is what took a lot of time and effort. But I would say patience, as well as a strong team of advisors, and also a tremendous amount of respect and trust is something that came into play in this transaction too, because we really wanted to find a business where we could really trust the people that were there before to help us through the transition and to give us the facts and tell us the way that things are, so that we weren't walking into a complete range of surprises. And we really had that with these folks, given the strong business that they had built and their credibility and reputation, I think went a long way in giving us the assurance that we needed to move ahead with it as well. What do you think, Chris?
Well, on the advisor front, you have to find advisors that are proper for your size and place in the world as well. You can't have an advisor that's used to too small of a deal nor too big of a deal. They have to fit just right. And need good legal advice, good accounting advice, good M&A, at least conversation advice, or someone with some experience, and need a financial institution to partner with as well. And transparency with all those people. Don't keep any secrets. And then the trust side for us, that was fortunate, where we had great trust. None of this was hostile. The fact that the previous owner passed away during it, we certainly don't want to make it look like this was a hostile transaction. It was never an aggressive transaction on our part. And that was very, very helpful throughout the whole point. I mean, really, the proper advisors is extremely important. And having a decent idea of, in all reality, our original thought process and deal was not far off from where we wound up. It just took a whole lot more paperwork and time to get there than what it seemed it would at first.
Sure.
Like Carrie said, patience is very important on both ends. And the one thing that we stressed to the prior owners was that operate it as if you were going to have it forever throughout the whole time, so that they wouldn't do anything short-sighted. That's what we wanted them to do. And it's important on all of this to say, while we selected this as a company for a target for us, it's extremely important for people to recognize that the previous owners recognized us as a potential people to continue their legacy and their business and move it forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. So for those of you that are listening by audience, this is great advice, not only for entrepreneurs who are looking to acquire a company, but for sellers, right? So for those of you out there that want to sell your business someday, trust, right? Being able to establish trust with the seller or anyone interested in purchasing your company, I think is what I'm hearing. And then the other thing is these trusted advisors, right? I often say, and maybe you'll agree or disagree, I don't know, but I think one of the best ways to get the right advisor, to your point, Kris, about having someone who has the proper experience, is to actually ask for referrals. So if you know of other business owners that own companies or businesses that are similarly situated, like the size of the deal, the size of the workforce, the size of the company, ask them for advice on what attorneys, what CPAs, what lawyers that they have worked with. So I think that might be beneficial, and also for the seller. I think if you're looking to sell a business, get some support and guidance from folks that are professionals that have similar experience. Would you all agree with that?
Yep. And a financing partner that understands what you want early on is important as well.
Sure. Great point. I'm sorry, Carrie, were you going to say something?
No, I agree.
Okay. Well, and then the other thing is, I simplified what probably took you months, maybe years to transact. I simplified it to this: discussions, term sheet, negotiation, advice, contract, close. Right. So those are the big rocks that have to be negotiated. But I think it takes all of those to get you to close the deal. And it sounds like you deployed all of those. So I think that's great. What advice would you have for an entrepreneur that is looking to acquire a small business?
My first one is that the business is only as strong as the people that are there. So you have to really secure home base with the new team that you're going to be working with, as well as your customers. I mean, you've got to make sure that everyone at home is taken care of and knows who you are and respects you and has the same vision, or at least will believe in your leadership style and view of the future. So, I mean, what you're really looking at is procedures. It doesn't matter what kind of widget the company makes. You're looking for people, procedures, and product is really what you're going after. So making sure that everything's okay with those groups is extremely important. And longevity, strength, willingness to work together, and everything that makes a group of people work together good is really one thing that you want to identify.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, and it can cut down on a lot of change, right? Because if they have a similar value set, a similar set of values that will ultimately lead into the workplace culture, if they're aligned with yours, then there'll be less change that's required, right? To continue to carry the business through. So I think that's a great point, Kris. Carrie, anything from you on that?
I think in this specific situation, Kris and I to date have really benefited from the strong reputation that Preferred Services has had in the community and developed because of its hard work and attention to detail and over many decades. So we've really benefited from that. I would say to someone who's looking to acquire a business is to really do your homework on the reputation of what it is that you are acquiring, because it is more than just a name and just products. And we have really benefited from what the prior owners created. But, there could be a situation where somebody could buy a business because maybe they aren't really familiar with the particular community, and maybe they get surprised in more of a negative way than we have. We've been surprised positively. I think we knew it was great, but honestly, the feedback, even from participating in the local home show a couple of weeks ago, was really just incredible. And I would echo what Kris said about trying to make sure that there's a workforce in place that wants to work together well as a team. And I think it's important to be realistic about the state of the business when it's acquired, as well as its potential. Because, and also to realize that to reach the potential, it's going to take more time than what you might hope, but that it is there, because there's a lot of room for growth in our market, but we want to make sure that we don't change our business model or have any less quality than what we've had in the past as we try to grow this. And we want to keep our team of experienced people in place. And trying to, as an acquirer, I think getting yourself comfortable with the fact that you can rely on the people that are there to stick around with you in the long run, to maintain the expertise that has always existed, but to carry it forward into the future is really important.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, it's not only about seeing the business for what it is today, but for what it can be. And you have to have that vision. So, when we have vision, we can embrace the history of the company and the successes that they've had, but it's important to have that vision for the future. And so I think what I'm hearing is that's an important part. You brought up team. You said the word team, Carrie. So share with our audience, if you would, both of you, your approach to leading a team. What is your approach? What's unique about the way you lead?
Well, I think Kris and I have had different professional experiences, and so he may have something different than me to say. But I think for me, it's first important to take a look at everybody's current position, see what roles they are filling, and if they are if the skills that they have are being utilized to their best ability in their current roles. And if they're not, then look at the team that you have and maybe shift some people around to reallocate their responsibilities among who you already have on the team. And then you can decide if you have any holes that need filled or if you need any other expertise brought in. But I think the biggest thing is having a mutual respect among everybody that's on the team for all of the roles, no matter if someone is supposed to have a supervisory role or not. I think there needs to be a mutual of respect for everyone and a willingness for everybody to pitch in and do what it takes to get something accomplished, instead of having someone who only wants to do a certain job every day. And we've been very fortunate with everyone we've always worked with in this business and in the past to really have people that have a can-do teamwork attitude. And I think that is really critical because things happen that are unexpected and you have to be willing to roll with the punches. And that's part of what can make a team successful.
Yeah. So it sounds like respect is critical, right? You start off with that. A friend of mine always says that, everything, success, failure, what have you, rises and sets with leadership. And so, your employees, your management team, they're all looking for that leadership. We all need it. We all need to be led at times, and there are times when we have a chance to lead. But you start off from a position of respect, evaluate the team, try to get people in a situation where they're have the opportunity for the most success, right? And then get them in the right seat on the bus, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Kris, what's your approach to leadership?
Respect and fairness are huge for me, as well as honesty. The one thing I've always been, this is a little humbling for me now because we are the new people here and we do not know how to do everything nor know all the processes, but I've always liked to have the ability to know the process well enough, not saying I could ever do it as good as anyone else, but at least have an appreciation for their work. And that's always gone a long way to getting people to have buy-in to want to help you out and work with you. That's always been huge for me, and always have worked with people. And in my previous life, I always like to say that a shovel fits everyone's hand. Don't be willing to ask somebody to do something that you're unwilling to do yourself. And in what I did before, we made great strides and were great to our people by making sure that they had a family and a home life as well. Well before that was trendy, we tried to offer a quality of life as well as work. And if someone has something going on, you have to be at work, you have to do your job, and you have to do your part, of course, but you try and roll with the punches. If you need to go to your kids' play or whatever with school, you try and accommodate that as much as you possibly can. That's been hugely successful for me in the past, and always want people to honor starting time at the beginning of the day. But I've always taken pride in the past of honoring quitting time so people could get home when they're supposed to, as often as possible.
Yeah. It's clear to me that both of you are, you care about people. You care about the people that have been around you and advising you. You care about the folks that were involved in selling their business to you. You care about your employees. You care about your customers. And, I personally believe that if you've got the right attitude, the right mindset, good things are going to happen. And so, when we're giving advice to other entrepreneurs, other folks that may be considering buying a business, I think having your mind in the right place, your heart in the right place is an important part. It's as important as the more business end of the transaction, if you will, the legal piece and the contracts and so forth. You've got to have the right mindset. And that's sort of what I'm hearing from both of you.
Yep.
Well, that's great. Tell us a little bit about, what you wish you had known about, although both of you have a business background, maybe there was something that you kind of wish you had known about or had thought of before you went through the acquisition process.
You have to have a contingency fund for that, Frank. And I guess you have to be honest about what the contingency funding should be. And you're always going to miss something foolish or small. And just you have to roll with the punches on that stuff and be able to survive the tidal wave of negative cash flow for a while and be ready for that. And then also you have to evaluate it the whole way through and make sure that it is trending in the right direction.
Give us Kris, if you would, give us an example or two. Doesn't have to be specific to your business, but generally, when you say contingency fund, what are some of the contingencies that someone might have to look out for?
The one that burned me the most mentally on this was paying tax on the vehicles after we bought them. Just completely missed that. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's noticeable in the first month that you do that, and you got to get that all in point before you did anything else. That was an example here. So there's some small stuff like that eats up an enormous amount of time at first, not to mention bringing your new procedures and processes into the business. Everything's different for everybody, including the employees. So, step one is making sure everybody gets paid on their first payday. And then step two is making sure your vendors get paid before they're supposed to as well, so that you can keep that level of trust and integrity up. And the first time in implementing any kind of a new system, it always takes longer than the next time. So there was lots of contingency, non-financial contingency planning there, where that was more difficult the first time than it will be the nth time. There were some small supply issues and equipment operating issues, just in views and visions of how we like to operate versus somebody else. That's not a positive or negative statement, but just what I've been used to having to work with. It's some stuff that we brought to the table that I would put in contingency funding, and we're still getting there through time. We're doing that as cash flow allows.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And that gets back to the advisors, making sure that some things you have to learn on your own, there's no question. But having that tax advisor that can say, hey, in an acquisition, these are the things that need to be planned for. Maybe you work with a lender to make sure that you've got enough, resources to get you up and running for the first few months. But that's a great lesson to share with others that, you might want to be prepared for some, there are going to be, things that you have to adjust to. And so I think that's great advice.
I've always been cautious of pro forma financial statements as well, because it's extremely easy to make money on paper. It's the execution in that you have to watch out for. So, I like to do pro formas on the bottom side of the scale. Like, what's this look like on the bad side, and unraveling, and then work back into good, kind of plan for the worst and hope for the best. And that's always been helpful for me, because a lot of times people put grandiose financial plans together and you oversell the ability and everything that you could possibly do yourself. And you're really set up for failure right off the get-go in terms of too much debt load, just not enough cash flow to support what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I spent a lot of years in the banking world, and we would often say that one of the biggest reasons that business plans fail is an overstated pro forma. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's great. Carrie, any thoughts? What do you wish you had known that up front that you didn't know now, related to kind of acquisition lessons?
I think. Everybody sort of thinks that they know this, and it sounds really simple. But at the heart of all of the challenges that we have come across, whether it was in the negotiation phase, due diligence, or post-acquisition, I think really everything comes down to communication. And we have found, for example, after we closed on the business acquisition, the challenges that we may have with customers or suppliers or employees, or even between the two of us, really just comes down to whether or not we took the time to make sure that we listened to the other person and then communicated what we thought needed to happen. And there's just so many things that can be streamlined in every interaction or transaction if you just take the time to listen and then follow up and communicate and ask the question if you don't know the answer, and make sure that you're listening to what it is. And I just have gained a new appreciation, I think, for that, because even little nuances that we have, we're dealing with a lot of details with customers who are, trying to make their homes beautiful in so many ways. And they're relying upon us to be one of the last people that come in to almost put the final touch on something that they're doing. And if we're not very careful in what we are doing in terms of communicating with our customers, as well as within our organization about our processes on what we need to do to accomplish this. And then it also flows through to our vendors, make sure that we have the products that we need to have when we need to have them. And so to me, it was just really a big reminder of something that seems so simple is you have to talk about the details.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's dive into something, Kris, you mentioned something earlier that made me think that, as you're going, sort of once you agreed to terms, right, with the seller, so that things like supply chain is in place. You don't want to hiccup in the invoicing, right? You want to keep that AR, in place and so forth. What are your thoughts on working with the seller to sort of evaluate and put an intermediary plan in place to make sure those things continue during the transaction? Did you do any of that? Do you have any thoughts on doing that?
I believe we did that in a reasonable fashion. I think we handled that decently well, Frank. it was kind of a cold, she was good enough to purchase any supplies for the most part, all the major stuff at the normal timetable that would have been done had she continued ownership of the business after we took it over. So there were no surprises there. And that goes back to the trust factor. Likewise, in your due diligence, you want to make sure that the par levels of inventory aren't taken to the bare minimum to overinflate your financial statements and make it look like the business is doing. There's all kinds of tricks that you can do to make the business look better. And we had complete trust in that process, that it was being operated as if they'd operate it forever. That doesn't directly answer your question there. There were some vendor hiccups where we submitted a new credit app and they argued with us and said, this is different. We can't input this in the system. And it's like, yeah, it's different because you wanted us to fill a new one out. So, I mean, those were some odd hiccups.
I think that's a good point. So, it's not just about managing the relationship on the transaction. You then have to, you have a workforce, right? You have to manage those relationships. You have vendors, or more, commercial kind of buyers, right? For your products. And then you have the individual buyer, right? The homeowner, that you have to, that you have coming in the door, right? I mean, so there's different pockets of, and then your suppliers, as you mentioned. So it's really about relationships, but juggling a lot of balls in the air, right?
In our business, there are a lot of direct consumers, however, a whole lot of influencers on which direction the customer can go. So you definitely have to take care of each touch point in a way differently, but everyone has to be handled properly and taken care of and their expectations met. And this is the line of mistakes are going to happen in any type of business. And it's not the mistake happens. It's always how you handle the mistake after it does. It doesn't matter if that's an internal or an external issue. You always want to make it right with good faith as quickly as possible. And that's something that we've always done. My background being heavily regulated, and you got extra points is a bad way of saying it, but it did not go unnoticed if you took something out of service the moment something was wrong with it and addressed the problem immediately. And that's the mentality that we'll take towards this, both to our customers and to our employees, is to stop what we're doing and make sure things are right.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. So, okay. So I'm building a house, or I'm renovating my house, or maybe I'm putting an office in that I want custom countertops in. So I'm a potential customer. Why should I consider preferred services? And B, what do I do to reach out and get a quote or learn about your different products? How do I engage you at Preferred Services?
Well, the best way to come and see what we can do to beautify your space is to come to our showroom, which is on Road, right across from Milan Park. And we have out there, and we have the ability to source other things if we don't have them readily available. I would say that it's a good idea for the customer to give a little thought to if they have pictures of something that they aspire to have their space look like, to give us an idea of what they are after. It's also good for us to have pictures of the existing space so that we can see what it is that we're working with. If you have a cabinet layout, but really come and see us. You can visit our website, preferredservices.com. We have a Facebook page as well. But it's hard to substitute for looking at natural stone in person. So if somebody wants to come out, even if it's a sunny day and if it's after hours and we don't have folks there, you can come out and walk around our yard. Just be careful not to knock the heavy slabs on top of yourself. But come out there and take a look, and then call us if you'd like and make an appointment, and we'll make sure that there's a salesperson that's ready to assist you whenever you want to take the next step.
That's great. That's great. So you're out on is it Chaplain Hill Road, right? That's Chaplain Hill Road.
Chaplain Road.
Yeah, Chaplain Road in the Morgantown area, out off of Interstate 79, and so not too far from there, right across from Milan Park. And so I've been out there myself, and so I definitely recommend others stop out. And it's very impressive. It's an impressive operation that you have, and so I encourage folks who may be interested to see for themselves and get out there and take a look. The other thing I wanted to just ask you, if I'm putting a budget together with my builder, my contractor, do you recommend that I get preferred surfaces involved before I finish that contract with my builder to get pricing, or is it okay to bring you in after the contract's executed? When do you like to be a part of the construction project?
You would certainly have to have your drawings and know what you want. Since everything's custom, Frank, the more information the customer can bring to us, the better. That's where this is extremely difficult. Everyone's used to having a price. You go to the store and everything's labeled with a price on it. Well, while our products are priced, the size of your job's different from everyone else's, which really changes that. So some firm engineering plans are always helpful. And the builder, it's always great to run it through the builder when you're doing something commercial like that, so that they can help guide it through the process. And they know when to dispatch different subcontractors for the processes that are being done and inputs into the house. So, I mean, it would be good to work with them. And if you're working with a builder or a designer that doesn't currently work with us, you can engage us as soon as possible, and we'll help through that process.
Yeah, it sounds to me like if I want a particular, slab or I want, I want something special, maybe I tell that to my contractor and say, look, I want in the contract, not just to have countertops, but I want to work with preferred surfaces. I want that in there. And then I want to go out with you, the contractor, potentially, and go out and take a look at the inventory.
And we have many companies that demand that their customers work with us on the contract basis. If it's not, their contracts specifically state to use preferred surfaces as well. That's the faith that they have in our company through experience, both in the remodeling world and in the new home world. The one difficult thing and just advice on that process would be that make sure that the allowances are in line with what you would like to have, that the contractor is giving you reasonable allowances. So that might push at least a preliminary discussion earlier into the building process than others.
Yeah, because overruns can get you. So, Well, this is great, and our time is coming to a close here soon. But before we go there, I would ask each of you respectively to give us sort of your final thoughts on acquiring a business, on your experience so far, or just any general advice that you would want to give our listening audience. So we'll start with you, Carrie.
I would say overall that Kris and I feel really fortunate to have the opportunity that we do with Preferred Surfaces, and we are very thankful to the workforce that is there, who is sticking around with us and who's being patient with us through the transition, as well as our customers, whether they be individual homeowners or the builders, designers, and the vendors who have really continued their relationships with the company the same as if the prior owners had remained. Also, a big thank you to Bradley who's sticking around, who is one of the prior owners, and her expertise remains with us. We're trying to learn as much as we can, from her. Really, this isn't something that Kris and I could ever be successful at on our own. And it's going to take a lot of work by us, of course, but we need the help of a lot of people. And we're thankful for those that have stood with us so far, and we think we have a lot of potential, and we're really excited about the opportunity.
That's great. Thank you very much. And Kris?
Yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed small and medium-sized businesses and all the excitement that comes with them, as well as the drama. And this has been enjoyable every day so far. And it's been humbling at times to learn the different things and the different jargon. And all the people have been wonderful to teach myself and carry the craft. And learning from everybody has been great. And this is a drastically different industry for us. So don't be afraid to try something different. And as long as you work diligently and make the right decisions and think it through, you can be successful in other activities as well.
Well, I think you may have saved the most sage advice for last. Don't be afraid to try something different, right? Which is something that you've done. I think one of the things that make you special, in my experience with you, is your humility. How you care about other people. Not only your workforce, but your customers and your neighbors and everybody. All of your contractors. It's in your nature. So I know that you're going to be successful. I can easily recommend that other people come to Preferred Services for your products and services. I myself am a customer of Preferred Services, so that makes it kind of easy. And we're so grateful for your advice. This is very helpful for our listening audience, for entrepreneurs that really want to actually make that acquisition, that have been thinking about it for a long time, and now they'll listen to your story and they'll have the courage to do so. So I want to thank you and want to thank you for being my guest. So thanks for tuning in to the Forge Ahead podcast. I'm your host, Frank Vitale, President and CEO of Forge. I'd like to thank our producer, Lindsay Quinlan. To find more podcast episodes and to learn about Forge, please visit our website, forgebz.com. Subscribe to the Forge Ahead on your favorite podcast app, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Spotify. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you have any questions or want to get in touch, feel free to contact us at max@forgebz.com. Thank you all, and I appreciate you being on our podcast today.
Thanks for tuning in to the Forge Ahead podcast. To find more podcast episodes and to learn more about Forge, visit our website at forgebz.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Show us how your company is forging ahead. Tag us on social media or use the hashtag Forge Ahead Podcast.